I get it. All right, good morning, everybody. 6:40 sharp. We are in Daf Kuf Gimel, 6 lines in the top. So that's yesterday. We got to 2 blot today. So we just had a brisa which described some of the scenarios that pasal chalitza. So we're going to go through some of them. So the first one is kav hakita. So he said kav hakita, that if you go ahead and remove the shoe of an amputee, right? So then it actually is kshera, right? We says kshera. So Mani, whose opinion is this, right? So that was the brisa. Actually, if you want to look back at the brisa, it's at the bottom of Kuf Beis and Beis and the top. So in the first category was kshera, and that was kav hakitua, I believe, right? The kav hakitua, but right? All those cases we say chalitza saksher. So he says kav hakitua Mani, whose opinion is this? Rameir. It's Rameir. The Tnan hakita yoytze bekav shelo divi Rameir. Says Rameir, one can go out on Shabbos. In other words, it's considered to be a shoe. If it's a shoe, therefore it can be used for chalitza. Rabbi Yosi says it is aser. And Rapila shall beged aser the Rabban. But it appears over there that the sock made of cloth goes according to Rabban, because Rameir would hold that should be okay. Some Rabbi. So Miseifa Rabbanan Reish Nami Rabbanan. But the fact that the Seifa is the Rabbanan who holds that a cloth sock is no good, it's not considered to be a shoe. So the Reish Shas the Rabbanan. So the Reish Mechupa Or, but the Reish is talking about a case of where it is covered. In other words, with that which is, I guess the kav hakitua, right? The amputee's shoe is somewhat, there is some leather on it, therefore it's considered to be a shoe. And Amarle Rava about a mechuba or my puzzle, but if it's not, doesn't have leather on its puzzle. See, hachi that's the case. I'm telling you, but the fact in the Sefer says we're talking about pilah shabeged. Why don't you say over there, if it comes to a sock that doesn't have, there's a difference between a sock that has cloth and also a shoe that has cloth. So when do we say that I should say by a sock made of cloth or puzzle? But when it comes to that of an amputee, only right if it's good, if it's if it has leather. But if there's no leather, then it's possible. In other words, the brisa differentiated between the two materials of a sock. So, and the one is possible, one is good. And if the same halacha applies when it comes to the amputee's shoe, that if it has leather, it's considered to be a shoe. If not, so then it should have also stipulated. But the fact that Reisha is Rameir, the same is also Rameir. And the difference is between a sock and the shoe is that the sock is no good because it does not go ahead and protect at all, and therefore doesn't qualify as a shoe. And right? So one who goes ahead and does chalitza should go ahead and push their foot to the ground in order to make sure that when she removes his shoe, that it's not coming off on its own, or he's not assisting it. So if he has his foot basically on the ground and she removes the shoe from there, therefore we would say that it is that she is removing it. Good luck with that. I don't know if the not working out. We need our mechanic. We need our sheer mechanics to come. So Amrle Rav Ashi Lameimar. So says Rav Ashi Lameimar Vatanya ben Oimid ben Yoshe ben Mota. It says there whether he's standing or sitting or leaning. So you just said whether he has to have his foot to the ground. So Ema Uli Eilam the Dachis Lekarik. All these cases is when he actually is right pressing his foot to the ground, right? But he can be standing, sitting, or leaning. V'amar Meimar and says Meimar Hayman the Masgi al Lichsa de Kare Loichalis. So a person, right? He has a deformity that he only walks on the balls of his feet and his toes, right? He doesn't go on his heels. Should not do chalitza. So I'm going to Rav Ashi Meimar Vai Vatanya Smuchas Harglai, right? So did we not say in terms of the smuchas haraglayim, where those items, I guess, which help a person who is basically disabled to go ahead and be removed from those, right? La chalitz but you is not talking about a case where the person who is, is disabled right? And he's using these smuchas reglaim, which assist him to go ahead and walk, is not referring to him. So we see over here that he is able to go ahead and do chalitza. So the Gemara answers low. They're given to somebody else, and that person does chalitza with those that consider those smuchas reglaim are considered to be his shoes. And Rav Ashi Lamad Kamar Meimar Lav Bar Uva Chalitz, right? Lav Bar Kiputz Chalitz, right? So that which Meimar just said, right? So I guess Bar Uva and Bar Kifuf, I guess that they made Rav Ashi feel bad. And he basically sort of cursed them, and they basically became disabled. They were no longer able to sort of walk upon their heels. So those people will be puzzled from chalitza. Fine, 2 dots. I mean, Arkuva Lamata. So we say from the Arkuva Lamata, basically, if a person was amputated, or he is amputated, if it was below the knee, if the amputation was below the knee, then his shok is complete, and therefore would be okay. But if it's above the knee, then it's an issue. For me as a kasha, it says reglaya. So regalim shloish regalim tachlik li b'shana. So it says, and we learn over there, prat. What are you also bakar, right? So prat lebali kap. So is that not also to exclude, right? People that the people who amputees, right? So you see over there that an amputee is excluded from shlosh regalim, the obligation, because you have to have feet or to be in order to be obligated. So why is chalitza not the same? So shani hacha d'chsiv me'al raglo, but here it says me'al raglo to come include even something with an amputee. If that's the case, even above the knee. So that says above the foot, not above the foot, and therefore, if it's too high, then it's no longer considered above the foot. But if it's below the knee, then it's considered to be above the foot. And Amar Rav Papa Shmamina Hai Istavra so ad Arenachis. So he says, that we see over here, right, that the part of the ankle by the foot is considered to be attached to the ground. If you think there's the foot, there's the ankle, then there's the area above it, right? Right? If that's the case, then his foot would be one section. The ankle would be on top of the foot, and then the leg, I guess even below the knee, would be on something which is, or it will be on something which is on the foot and not considered to be directly on the foot. So therefore, right? So therefore we say in such a case that the ankle is really considered to be, because therefore we can say that, anything below the knee is considered above the foot. And Amar Rav Ashi, good luck with that, Mr. Mechanic. So Amar Rav Ashi, so he said no, that even it is considered to be separate. However, that anything which is the same level height as the foot, that is not above it, is considered to be it can be a raglo, and therefore the other area is me'al raglo. Fine. Then a quote for the Mishnah. He says anything from the knee and above is amputated. I'm sorry?
If the oven is in the amputee,
right, then
the bama is free to show.
No. You just be going, right? Well, it depends. If it's below the knee, then he's fine. If it's above the knee, then he can't do chalitza.
He has to do yibum.
Then, right, he's not outside the parsha of yibum. He's still a brother-in-law. Right, so she would either have to do yibum, or if there's other brothers, then do one of the brothers. So Meisi Rav Kahana. So ask Rav Kahana. So now we say over there we're going to have a bunch of psukim. I'm sure a bunch of corrections. So this has to do with, I guess, I think this is part of the Teicha. So it says over there, right? So we say, right, that she gives birth between her legs. Right now, regleha we define basically as your feet, right, between your feet, and so you don't really give birth between your feet, right? Now it is between the feet because when a woman pushes to give birth, I guess she sort of brings bends her knees and brings her feet towards right, where she's giving birth, and therefore it is between the feet, not just between the legs. So therefore, once again, it is dafka the feet, not the thighs, and therefore the chalitza will be able to perform from someone amputated above the legs. So Tashma. So it says over there, I guess, regarding the morning, I guess he did not do his raglov and not his mustache, right? So it says over there raglov, so it refers to also facial hair and body hair, right? So, but we see over there that raglov, right? So it's not necessarily considered to be feet. So once again, Gemara says no, or not. Once again, we'll say I think 3 times. Lishna me'alia. Normally, it does. Raglov means your feet, but over here it does not refer to hair on the feet. It refers to other areas, but it just says raglov to use lashon nakiya, right? A clean lashon. And Tashma, the yavu shal lahasech es raglov. Right, so he went to go ahead and he was going to the bathroom. So he covered his raglav, his feet. Once again, so you see, feet is higher up, the thighs, right, towards the middle of the body. So he says, no, lishna mi'alia. And Toshma, achmazi hu es raglav b'chadra mikara, right? But once again, he what was that? Bayaglav, yeah, of course, yeah. So I say, so over there, once again, it says he was covering his raglov, right? It doesn't mean feet there. So once again, the Gemara answers lishna me'alia. And finally, it says bein ragleha, right? This is by Yal and Sisra. So it says we're soon going to see the psukim there. So it says over there once again, ragleha, right? It was not referring to the bottom of her feet. It was referring more to her thighs and her mid area. So my answer is once again lishna me'al. Fine. Toshma, come and listen. Omar Rabbi Yechanan Sheva Be'ilois Bal Isa Rasha Isa Hayam. There are 7 Be'ilois that Sisra with Yal on that day. Shnei the pasuk says Bein Ragleha. Now each one of these verbs, right? So Kara, Nafal, Shachav, right? The bow, the Nafal fell, and Shachav. These are all euphemisms hinting to Bila. Bein Ragleha, Kara, Nafal, Basher, Kara, Sham, Nafel, Shadu, right? So it says there are all these areas that he was with her. So the Gemara says, well, they wanted to know, but in this case, Lamaisa, that there was Hana for her. So Rabbi Yechanan, Mishum Rabbi Shemechai, Kol Tovasa Shavashayim, Ra Eitzel, Ralhi Eitzel Tzadikim. Right? Anything that is good for Rishayim, no, it was good for Sisera, it was bad for her. Shnei says, Yishem Lecha, Pen Tadabrim Yaakov Mitov Adra. So it says over there by Lavan, right? So it was warning him, make sure you don't say anything, good or bad. So it makes sense, don't say anything wicked or curse them. Elo Tov, Amaylo, why not Tov? Tell the Shmami, no, Tovas Tzadikim, he ate self tzadikim. So any tova of the Russia is bad for a tzaddik. So therefore, since by Sisra this was tov for him, therefore we'll say it was bad by Bishlam Asam Dilma. Dilma Mitkalish Shemei Davars Kachab Elohacha Mai Ra'ika over there. Okay, so there's something bad. So maybe the bad over there was some of us Kachavim, right? And he would swear, and his idols and all that. So that makes sense. But in this case, what was the bad? So the Gashadi Zuma, right? No, that his Zuma, right? His Zera that that he was with her. Is that itself is considered to be wrong? Right. So when the Nachash was ba on Chava, so he also he through his impurity went inside her, and he saw Shamdu al Har Sinai. Pascha Zumas. However, when Bnei Israel went to Har Sinai, they were finally got rid of that Zuma. Right, that wickedness, right, that impurity that was cast within them. So in other words, those Israel that were on Har Sinai, they had the Zuma was removed from. But people, let's say Gerim or whatnot, they never had officially the Zuma, this impurity removed from them. Fine. 2 dots around a quarter of the way down on top of Kuf Gimel Amud Beis. Now, what about if she does the chalitza in a shoe that is not his? It's Tanraban. Nalo. So it says Nalo. The pasuk says, right, his shoe. Ein li'el Nalo. No show. How do you know? No, it's only if it's not. It has to be a shoe. How do you know you can use somebody else's shoe? Minayin tam loimer. No. Michal Malkman says Nalo again. So any shoe. In K, Nalo. If that's the case, why does it say Nalo? So Nalo harui lo. Right, it has to be a shoe that's fit for him. It's sized properly. So right, to exclude a shoe that's so big that one would not be able to walk with, or one that's so small that doesn't even cover up half majority of the foot. Or also to exclude, right, a sandal, I guess, that doesn't have the sole, which covers the foot. And Abai Avika Kame de Rav Yosef Asiyavama Luchlo. So Abai was once by Rav Yosef, and he saw Yavama came to do chalitza. Samarle Hav Le Sandalef. Give me your sandal, right? Give me your shoe in order to give to the Yavam for him to use for the chalitza, for her to remove. So Yav Le Sandala the smaller, right? So he gave her, or he gave Rav Yosef, right? The left shoe. Right, his left shoe. Now we had the Allah. It should be so. Now, I'm sorry.
Abaya is addressing the Yavama to give.
Abai was there. Abai was by Rav Yosef, and a Yavama came to do chalitza. Right, this couple came in to do chalitza, and Rav Yosef turned to Abai and says, "Give me your shoe to give to the Yavam in order for them to do the chalitza." So he wasn't so fond of the fact that they were using someone else's shoe. So he says, you know what? You don't want to do good chalitza? I'll show you better. I'll show you something else. I'll one up you. Here's my left shoe. And we know earlier we saw that should be the right shoe. So he gave him the left shoe. Right? So, okay, what do you mean? Why did you give me your left shoe? Even though the Rabbanan say to use the left shoe, the chalitza still works, but it's only b'diavad. So he responded. So Amar Le, Nami, right? Well, also somebody else's shoe, right? Right? To use someone else's shoe is also only b'diavad. So why are you asking for a shoe in the first place? You're using someone else's shoe. You might as well use a left shoe. It's all b'diavad. No, I meant give me your shoe, and basically I'm going to give him your shoe, and that's going to be his, and then you walk home with no shoes, right? So basically, I was going to use the shoe, but make it his, and then he can go ahead and perform the chalitza with his own shoe. Fine. Sandal shel eitz. So he said a wooden shoe, and that was okay. Saman Tana. So who's a Tana? Some of Shmuel Rameri. It has been a Rameir the Tran Hakita Yaitzi b'kav shelo. So we saw that on Shabbos, right? An amputee is able to go out on Shabbos, right, with his wooden, shoe, which is attached to his wooden leg, and that is considered to be a shoe because he's wearing it on Shabbos. It's not considered to be any sort of hotzah issue on Shabbos. And Rabbi Yossi says, he answers, he forbids. And no, you can even say that it was covered with leather. It's not just a wooden shoe, rather it's also a leather shoe. And therefore, it would be not only according to the mayor, it would be according to all shittas. And Amarav Papi Mishmei de Rava Sandal Hamuzgar Leitichlasba. A sandal Hamuzgar. Right now, this is a Muzgar is referring to by Saras. So if we know that the people sometimes clothing gets saras. So therefore, is something now the first level it's like suffix. It's now we have to go ahead and put it in this thing called quarantine, right? I don't know if people have never heard of the word quarantine, right? You have to be in quarantine for 7 days, and then you got to go re-show it to the Kohen. So if it's in the first stage of Muzgar, I'm sorry. So they say Sandal Muzgar like Tichlasba. Right, so don't then you can't use chalitza. However, in chalitza, but if you use the shoe, which is only a musgar, then chalitza kshera. Then the chalitza is good. Sandal. Hamuchlat, but if it's ready to be confirmed tzaras, right? Then then there should not, you cannot do chalitza, chalitza sapsula. And if you do chalitza, then the chalitza is no good at all. Now, why is that? So let's see if I can just ruin it. Right, because Rashi points out, I don't know if it was a punchline or sometimes if Rashi gives you the information now, then it's meant to be known now, right? So Rashi says, why is the chalitza psula? Right, because he points out that the sreifa kai is supposed to be burnt and destroyed. So something which is set to be burnt and destroyed is not considered to be there. If this item, this shoe, is supposed to be burnt, it's like it's burnt already, and therefore she would not be removing his shoe. She's removing nothing because it's the sreifa kai. So that was the opinion of Rav Papi. Rav Papa, B'shmei Rav Amar, Echad San Muzgar, Echad San Muchla, Leitichlets Bo. You should not use a chalitza v'im chalza, but if you do go ahead and use it, then we say chalitza kashera. Then the chalitza does work; it's effective, even though it's l'sreifa kai. So Meisvei as Ukash, it says by San Muzgar, Matayim B'Zaycho. Where's the aleph? So we say over there, right? That if a house, it was a musgar, in other words, it showed signs of taras, right? So then it's metame, metaycho, umleacharav, right? That was the Bach has that, right? So in other words, even though it's still in the quarantine, doesn't have to be destroyed yet, right? So you go ahead, if a person, if he enters it, right? So metame metaycho. Right? No, I skipped it. Vahamuchla. That's supposed to be right. I know it's not. Right. So he says, "Beis hamuzgar is matamitoch." Only if he goes inside it does a person who's tahor become tamei. If he goes inside a house, which has this first level of tzaras. However, muchlat, if it's already confirmed tzaras, it's level 2. Then mitaychem alacharav, right? And then both of that, even if he touches the outside of it, it becomes tamei. Zev zeh matamei b'biyah. And both of them are metame upon entering. Now, that's a tachlis dummy, and it is considered to be like it's kravas nothing, right? You have to enter inside the house, but that doesn't exist because the house should be existing since the house is supposed to be destroyed. And you're telling me, right, that anything which is supposed to be destroyed is not considered to be there. So how could you enter a house which is muchlat? It's not in existence, right? So shani hasan damakra v'natas es habayis, right? You take apart the house. Afil b'shad netitza kari bias. Even though it's being taken down, it's still bias. So since the extra posit calls it a bias, therefore the halach is when one enters it, you become tummy. So tashma, come listen. Matlis sheish b'shalosh shalosh. If you have a rag which is 3 by 3. Even though those have a kazayis, kevan shenichlas ruba lebayis, all right, lebayis tar tamasu. So we say if you have a some sort of rag, right, which has taras, right, and once you bring a majority units are not the size of kazayis inside a house which is tower, then he has been matame the house. So my la nuchletes, right? So isn't now referring to something which is confirmed saras, and now wait. So how do you get into a size, right? The rove of it, if it doesn't exist, right? It's muchlat. It's supposed to be destroyed. It's supposed to be burnt. So where's the law masgeros? So if that's the case, aim a sefer. What are the sefer? It says how you if even this the rag, whatever he had, the garment was kamazesim. Keman shenichas mimena kazayis lebayis tohor, then tamatsu. Once even if you bring a kazayis, you don't have to bring in the robe. You just bring a kazayis of this larger garment, then it has been matame the house. So iyamar to be shalom muchletes. If you say muchletes hanadis kish lameis. Because we know there's a comparison to a muchla to a mace. In other words, by the special halacha is by a mace, that if you have a kazayas, then it's matame. So obviously here we're dealing with something that learned off of a limud of having from a mace because it has to be a kazayas. So if you're talking about that this rag is a muchlat, and that's the reason why the kazayas is significant. So therefore, this Bryce must be talking about a muchlat. Aliyamarta musgeres, but you're only talking about musgeres. Am I lames? So the Gemara says no. Shani Hasan over there, even a rag is different. A garment is different. The Amar the Bas says v'sarav esa beged. Right, you burn the beged. This is called a beged. I feel b'shas shreifa kori beged. Or even time was beged, it's called a beged. So Gemara says now, okay, well, you said a house is still a house before it's supposed to be destroyed. You said a garment is still a garment before it's destroyed in the pasuk. So I believe marminei. Why don't we go ahead and learn from there that say that the shoe, even though it's muchlat, is still a shoe, even though it's supposed to be destroyed? So iser mituma legamina. So we said no. The iser over here by Ishus, the halachas of tuma is a chiddush, and therefore we can't learn the halachas of chalitza from that case. Fine. So Amar Rabba Hilchasa Echad Sandal Hamuzgar ve'Echad Sandal Shamuchlat. Whether these both has tzaras even of the first level or of the second level, the Echad Sandal Shavas Chavim, or a sandal of a Chavim which was used basically when they moved the idol. We got to dress it up. They put shoes on it. Like tichlitz. You should not go ahead and use these for chalitza, v'im chalza. But however, if they are used, chalitza kshera, these shoes are okay. Shel takrayves v'raschavim. However, if it's something that one offered to a v'raschavim, or turn the page, the shel irni dachas, or of a city that is also supposed to be destroyed, the shel zakeh, right from Avodah Zarah, but shel zakeh I asu lechvodo. Or for somebody who does, I guess, died for the tachrichin, I guess they for covering the feet, the tachrichin misa, right? As for that, like tichlitz, they should not use chalitza. Chalitza is a psula. But if you do chalitza there, then the chalitza is psula. So Amarle Ravina Lavashi is Zamashna Zakin Asula Chvado. So what's the reason why you can't use these shoes made for a zaken who's for his burial? The lavli lucha of it, they're not made for walking. So Gemara says that the did not be lavli lucha. So the ones the sitting in basin also not made for walking. So I'm like ilu maski shilucha the beidina mi kapitala dina, right? So if someone needs to borrow a shliach of the basin, would need to go ahead and borrow the shoes, right? Would basin be upset? No, they would let him go ahead and use it. So therefore, let him walk off with the chalitza shoes. So therefore, we see really it is somehow used for walking, right? These boots are made for walking, right? And therefore, it can go ahead and but if something is not used for walking at all, then it would be possible for chalitza. Fine. Nayimish. Chaltza b'layla chalitza kshera. One does chalitza at night. It's kshera, right? Doesn't sound like it's lechatchila. It works. Rabbi Elazar, Paisa, Rabbi Elazar says, no, it's no good. It's puzzle. So that was one case. Night. Now, the small. Let's go another case. Using a left shoe. Chalitzatza psula. The chalitza is psula. The Rabbi Elazar, machshir. Rabbi Elazar is machshir using a left shoe.
You prefer left than right.
Left?
No.
No.
The left shoe rather than the chalitza at night.
No, we say no. It's the opposite. Oh, Rabbi Elazar.
Yeah, Rabbi Elazar.
Yeah. So, lema b'hakamiflagi. Let's say there's a machlekes. The Marsa Makshinan Rivim Linagayim. One says we learn cases. Right, Riv is cases of Beis Din. Right, arguments cases of Beis Din. Right. So one says, right, we learn cases of Beis Din to Nagayim to Tzaras. In other words, by tzaras, you have to go ahead and show, right, biyom, right? It says when biyom haros, right, you show them. So to base it, so makshin reveal the negayim. Oh, makshaloi makshin reveal the negayim. Other says no. If you learn from negayim, then he has to be during the day. Therefore, to do chalitza at night is no good. And if you don't learn from them, then he can go ahead and do chalitza at night. My answer is no. The kuli amalei makshin reveal the negayim. No one learns reveal the negayim. Because then if that's the case, then even if you have a Gemar Din, right? In other words, let's say the case starts during the day, but the Gemar Din is done at night, right? So then it would be no good. And we know that as long as it started during the day, and even though the Gemar Din was at night, it would be okay. Over here, what's my one held that the chalitza really is just like a case of din. but one holds that Tchilas Din, Damya, right? It's similar to the beginning of the Din when they do the Chalitza. Therefore, you can't start a court case at night, right? You can't start a case at night.
With the shot.
What?
With the shot that you can do it at night.
Because we learn,
I mean, it's the next day, fine. So you define it as next day.
right? Because we learned that based in there, in other words, when the Gemara Sanhedrin learns out that based in they start cases during the day, the yom. So this is considered to be chalitza is considered to be the beginning of a court case, right? You're not going to have a 9:30 p.m. appointment that based in to begin a case. The based in, right? So since this is like based in, it's like Tchilas Din. Therefore, just like Tchilas Din has to be during the day, so the chalitza has to be done during the day. Well, Mar Savar chalitza Gemara Din. It's the end. It's the final, the verdict. I'll take a half cup. And the other one says no. And chalitza is like the Gemara Din, like the judgment dummy. And therefore, you can go ahead and you can conclude at night. And therefore, since the conclusion, therefore you can do the chalitza at night. It would be share. And Rabba Barchia Katusba Avid Uvda B'Mok V'Yachidi U'V'Layla. So he did a shkoyach. Thank you very much. He did a chalitza, right? B'Mok, right? In other words, with some sort of felt or cloth, even though it wasn't leather. U'V'Yachidi, and only I guess it was only him, right? U'V'Layla at night. So Omar Shmuel Kama. So he says Shmuel. So Kama Rav Hure David Ki Yicheda, right? He must be very great because he does all these things like a das yachid. In other words, he was not so complimentary, right? B'lashon gnai, as Rashi says, right? So my kushya, I understand. So what was Shmuel's issue? Why was he took such exception to this case? Second, thank you. So my kushya, imog, right? If the issue is that he was using felt, right? So stamatanya, right? So we have a stam, right? That it was okay that even to use milk is still mutter, right? And Laila, and if his issue was it was done a nice stamatanya. Also, the Arab Mishnah says chalitza in the night is also good. Eli yechidi. Rather, maybe he took exception. He only did it as an individual. Kokashile. So hey chiyavit bichida. All right. So how can he go ahead and do it once again by himself? So he says, no, the Yechida K'tanila, it also says it's the time within the Mishnah, Cholza b'shnayim, o b'shloisha, v'nitzu, echad, mehen karo apostle, is the Mishnah on the next page, right? So one who goes ahead and the Chalitza was done in front of two people, or even a beis din of three, but one of them was found to be a relative or a karo apostle, Chalitzas apsua. The Chalitza doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. However, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yechna, Hasanler, Machshirim, they said no, it's okay. One time this person did a chalitza between just him and her. They said surim, right? They did it in jail, or they were kind of. Rabbi Kiva, and they asked Rabbi Kiva for a ruling, and he said it was okay.
The first Mishnah said that the basin did not have to be dayanim mukti.
Right.
It could be.
Well, that's what he said. Why'd you say that? They have to be able to read, right? So over here, even one person, right? Even one person, right? So we said over there, you didn't three. Over here, it's just one person. But all my right? So he's right. So he says, right? The halacha is not like that pair. In other words, not like Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yechna Sandler, who said it's okay with one, right? And therefore, that was Shmuel's issue. Shmuel's issue was how'd you go ahead and you can't just do it b'yachidi. Or the halacha is not like them, not like Rabbi Kiva in that case. Maybe that was just there's no other way to do it. They were in jail, so therefore that worked in that case. But it's not halacha. Or Bibasim, or elsewise here said kulu nami yachida k'tanila. All of them were also Yachid Tanya Amar Shmuel Rabbi Yasi and Irisi as Rabbi Shal ben Elisha Shechaz b'mok b'yachid b'layla. Right. So in other words, even in this case, in other words, that which he does, all three of them are also only stated by a single individual das yachid, and therefore that was basically what he's pointing out is why do you go ahead and do these movements like a das yachid? You should have done like everybody else, who holds that you should use leather. you should be in front of multiple people, and you should do it during the day. Fine. But then we said the small chalitza is a psula. We said if you do your left, the chalitza is no good. And Rabbi Elazar machshir. So my time the Rabbanan. So what's the reason for the Rabbanan? So he says Amar Ula Yalfinan Regel Mitzvah. By a mitzvah, right? By the purification process, the mitzvah, right? So it says over there by the mitzvah, it says the word regel is also over here and over there, right? We place it on his right thumb and toe, right? So the right, so malam, mean just like over there by the mitzvah, his purification process is done with the right. Afkan, do you mean so over here the chalitza says the word regel should also be done with the right. The Rebbe Elazar lo yalav regel mitzvah. He doesn't learn, right? Regel, he doesn't have the same gzera shava. But Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer, how do we know that by Ritzia, right? That's by an Eved Ivri. He wants to go ahead and stay by his master. You go ahead, you puncture his right ear by the doorpost, right? So it says Nemar Kan Oisiv and Nemar Lahalan Ois. It says over there, right? The Ozen by once again by when you place by the Metzora. And also says Ozen by the case of Ritzia. Malo, you mean just like over there by the Mitzvah with the right, Afkan, you mean. So I shouldn't have the same Ksera Shava here and require Dafka the right shoe. So Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, I switch around the Shitas, right? Say over here that he is the one who used the Ksera Shava and the Rabbanan do not. And Rabba Ma'ali Yelon Teva. No, don't switch around. Oizen, Mufne, Regel, or Mufne. Ozen, both the words of Ozen is extra. We don't darsh or anything else. However, Regel, or Mufne. Right? Regel is not extra. Chila Mufne, my Pirchika. So okay, so if it's not extra, right, then it needs to teach you. But if it was extra, what would be the Pircha? Right? Right? You need all these other materials, right? When it comes to Matzorah. So since you need all those materials, right? Then you also have it's Chumrah. Then we also have the Chumrah of using the right. But when it comes to Chalitza, you don't need all those materials. You don't need the hyssop, the branch, and all that, right? And so therefore, since that case, you don't need all those requirements. Maybe you also don't need the requirement of the right. You can just also use the left, and that's the reason why Rabbi Elazar is machshir the left because of the pircha that you can ask on the Gzera Shava. Fine. Now in Mishnah. Mishnah says 3 lines from the bottom. Chotza b'ruchka avaloi kara. So now we know that there's basically 3 aspects to a chalitza. There is the removing of the shoe, the chalza. There is the spitting, right? The woman spits towards the oven. And then there is the reciting of the psukim there. So now, chalza b'racha, she removes the shoe and she spit, but there was no reading of, this is the guy, he didn't take me. Chalitza ksheira. The chalitza works. It's effective. You didn't do all 3, but you did the other 2 as it works. Kara b'rakka below chalza. Let's say she read the psukim, she spit, but she didn't remove the shoe. Chalitza psula. The chalitza does not work. Chalza b'kara. She removed the shoe and she read the psukim aloi rakka, but she didn't spit. So Rabbi Eliezer, according to the Mishnah, right? It doesn't work at all, right? That mice is just as it's ma'akev, just like removing the shoe. And Rabbi Kiva chalitza sakshir. Now the chalitza does work. And Omar, even she didn't spit. And Omar le Rabbi, yeah, the chalitza is kshera, even right. Right. So Omar le Rabbi Elazar. So it says kacha yasa, right? So it says kacha yasa, right? In the pasuk, right? So called davar ma'isa ma'akev, right? Anything that's a ma'isa, kacha yasa, do like this. All the actions. What are the actions that are stated in the pasuk? Remove the shoe and spit. Those are the actions. They should be ma'akev. So I'm Rabbi Kiva Mishamrai over there. It's right. Kachi yasa leish called davar shu ma'isa b'ish. Anything that was done right with the person, right? In other words, removing a shoe, he was part of that action, but he's not part of the spitting action. So therefore, it's not right since it's kachiyase, right? So therefore, his action for her spitting is not considered to be an action which is ma'akev. Fine. That was one of those. Now, next part of the Mishnah, hacheresh, a deaf mute, shenechlatz, v'chareshes, shechaltza. So a cheresh is deaf mute. The guy is a deaf mute, or she is a deaf mute. Shechaltza, the chaletz is lekatan, or the chalitza is done to a cotton. Chalitzatza psula. The chalitza doesn't work. So if there's another brother who's a deaf mute, then you have him do the do the chalitza.
Well,
If she got married and she was a deaf mute and she can't perform the chalitza to anybody, right?
You presume that the Hirsch cannot do kriya, right?
We'll
So
get there.
everybody here in kriya agree.
I don't want to get to kriya yet. I don't want to talk about it because Gemara's going to talk about it. It's a good point. Gemara's going to discuss it.
Okay.
We'll keep that aside. All right? Put in your back pocket. Now, so, but a deaf mute, l'chara, can't, do it right, read, or, can't say anything, right? There's no knowledge, can't hear, right? Or speak, right? Yeah.
So no, because everybody agrees.
So let's see.
Let's
Let's see.
agree that kriya is chashuv. It was chashuv.
No, Kriya is part of it. It was the one that it was the least. Well, it was one of the three main parts, but it was the third most. It was the third most essential, but still one of the three main parts. That was the first case. Yeah. Right.
Right.
Let's see. Katana shechalza. If she was a katana, she did a chalitza. Tachas, right? And so what should she do? So she wants to go ahead and do chalitza. Tachas mishatida. She should go ahead and do chalitza when she gets older. And if she doesn't go ahead and do it when, right? She doesn't do it. If she does chalitza now, she do it again. If she doesn't repeat it, chalitza the chalitza is no good. So basically, a katan or katana or cheresh or chereshes is not good. Chalta b'shnayim b'shlosha. This is the case we just saw before. It was done in front of two, like almost like they're like witnesses, or b'shlosha, or three, like a basin. Or one of the three was found to be either related or pasuk. Chalitza is no good. And Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yechon and they say no, it's okay. And their proof is it was once a guy was in jail, and I guess she was also in jail, and they were able to just be the two of them. And he says that was a valid chalitza. Fine. Amar Rava. Going to Rava. Hashta diamarta kriya lo mi'akva. Now that was the first line of our Mishnah. We said, right? The first line said, right? If they just do the spitting and the removing, it's okay, even though the chalitza is sheira, right? Therefore, elaim or elamas, right? Basically, a person who is a mute, he can't speak. Now, it's not just reading, we have to say it, okay? But now we're talking about, so you got touched upon. It's basically someone that can't talk or speak, right? They can, they can hear, right? They could read with their eyes, but they can't talk, okay? Now. So ilay v'ilamas shechaltzu, they do chalitza. Chalitza kshera. Their chalitza should be okay, right? Because, right, l'maisa, you don't have to do it. It's not ma'akev. So Tanan, right? Let's see that. Let's see what the difference is. So Tanan. So cheresh and achlatz v'chamesh shechaltz v'chlatz min hakatan. So this is the first case from where I mentioned. If you have a deaf mute, a cheresh, or a chereshes, or a katan, chalitza is possible. My time up. Lav mishum delo b'nei kriyaninu. Is it not because they can't read? If it's because someone can't read or say it out loud, why? What about an elaim or elamas? So go answer no low. Mishum delav b'nei das ninu. It's not because of that. A person who is a deaf mute is not a bar das, right? He can't make a decision, right? He's not a bar das. But a person, right, who can hear, right? He just can't speak, right? He can see, and he just can't talk, right? That he's a bar das, and therefore chalitza would be okay. Right? So that's the case, right? So maybe they're also not a bardas, right? So Amarava Ilevi Lemas B'dei Denino. No, they are a Bardas, and just their mouths are broken. They have the inability to talk, but they are a Bardas. Right? It says over there that they're not part of Amar V'Amra, right? So they don't have the ability to speak. If they don't have the ability to speak, then it should be an issue. Rather, he was talking about the Seifa. It says, if you have a person, right, who did cheresh, did chalitza was done to a cheresh, right? From chalitza min a katan or a chalitza from a katan, chalitza psula. Chalitza is no good. And Amarav Hashem Marta Kriya Me'akva. Now that you say that Kriya is Me'akev, the Fichon, therefore, Ilem Ilemes Shechaltza Chalitza Psula, their Chalitza should be puzzle. It shouldn't work at all. Why is that? Umasnis like Reb Zera, and the Mishnah is like Reb Zera. The Amar Reb Zera, Kol Harui Lebila Ein Bila Ma'Keves Bo. In other words, like this. Over there is a machlokas over there with the size of mincha. You have to be able to mix the mincha a certain 60 stronim, right? To put inside a large kli and to mix, the oil with the flour. Now, if it's too big, you can't mix it. Okay. Now, so according to Reb Zera, as something is too big, it's possible. But if it's not too big, right? The max is 60 stronim. If it's only 50 stronim. Even if you didn't mix it, it's okay. As long as it has the ability to mix. So all you need is the ability, right? And therefore, anything that is fit to mix, then if you didn't mix it, it's not ma'akev. But if something is not fit to mix, and I was a 61 or whatever more than that, then the fact that you didn't mix it, the mincha is no good. So too in our case, if you have to be able to speak and they can't speak, therefore it's no good. But if a person did it and he didn't speak, that's okay. If he didn't say the psukim or she didn't say the psukim, then that's okay. Because since they have the ability to do it, they just didn't do it, that's okay. So it's the same as the mincha, right? Just like over there, as long as you have the potential to do it, then you forgot about it, then it's okay. But if you never had the potential in the first place and you didn't do it, it would be ma'akev. Fine. So that was the case of the Ilem Ilemes. So according to this shot, Ilem Ilemes would be no good because they don't have the ability to do everything completely as they should have done. So Shalchu Luhu Lehu the Shmuel. So they sent to the question is it was sent to the father of Shmuel, Yevama Shiraka Tachlis, right? So if the Yevama went ahead and I guess she spit by one of the brothers, right? Shiraka, in front of the basin, she should go ahead and do the chalitza, right? In other words, now you got to do chalitza with his brother, right? So Gemara says, right? So what can we say, infer from here, right? That knows by her spitting, she basically began the chalitza process with his brother, and therefore she can no longer do even with any other brothers.
By extension, all the brothers are
right. You guys are done with yibum. Now you just got to, finish. Let's do chalitza. Finish up. So Mani, whose opinion is this? Elim Rabbi Kiva. So now, when it comes to right to do part of the mitzvah, right, we can say that in other words, it's just like cases of when there are limbs. You have to go ahead and burn the limbs on the mizbeach in order to go ahead and eat the chi. Less no lo me'akvi. But feast no me'akvi. In other words, when you have limbs, let's say the limbs became pasur or tameh, so you can't burn them on mizbeach, so you have nothing to burn, so you can still eat the other parts of the kabbanos, right, of the meat that you're supposed to eat. But if there were limbs that were set to go ahead and burn, you got to wait till that's done, right? And Amar Rabbi Kiva, right, lo me'akva, right, and over there he says even in that case it's not me'akva. So me'achin nifsulei, right? So in other words, how do you say in this case? In other words, if she wasn't doing the mitzvah at this time, why would it passel at all? Rabbi Kiva doesn't hold that it would passel in the case of the imurim. So too in this case, it shouldn't passel from the brothers. It wasn't part of the avoda. So we're going to but what do you mean? according to Rabbi Elazar, right? So he said in our Mishnah, said that the chalitza is no good if you don't do the spitting, right? So you need both things. So why should her spitting without the removing of the shoe have any effect? It it should be powerless, right? So Ella Karebi. Rabbi says like Rabbi, the time in a brayso keeps it says right? The kvasim and Shavuos, when they bring the lambs, they're brought out. So they're all those. I'm actually Ella b'shchita. In other words, once we do the shchita on the kvasim, that's when we sanctify the loaves that are brought. Ketzad shaftan lishman v'zardan lishman kidesh lechem. If they went into the shchita lishma and the zrika lishma, then the bread has been sanctified. Shachat shalol lishman v'zark lishman. But if he does the shchita, right, shalol lishma, right? He didn't have in mind it was going to be for the kvasim for the atzeres. But then he all of a sudden afterwards, when he had the blood in the vessel, he did the zrika lishma, like kiddush lechem. Shachton lishman, v'zark davan shalol lishman. If he does the opposite, the shchita lishma, but then he does the bol lishma, kiddush ve'nekadosh, kiddush ve'nekadosh. According to Rabbi, you've sanctified him, but not. In other words, it's not good for the mitzvah, but you can't use it for other things. You can't go ahead and redeem them. You started it, but you ruined it. Like you can't go back anymore, right? So, Rabbi Shimon Aimer, right? So now over there, that the shchita, it wasn't, everything has to be lishman, and therefore, if you didn't start it, right, until you have to do both lishman. But over here, you see the Rabbi that even though you didn't do all the parts, right, and you started it, but you can't, you can't put it back anymore. You're done, right? So it's over here, right? She started the chalitza with his brother by doing the spitting. So now you can't just say nothing happened. You're too far for this. So now you got to do the spitting, and also you got to finish up the chalitza by removing the shoe, and it passes her from doing yibum with any of the other brothers. All right, we'll stop here because now it goes into a long discussion of the brayso. 15 minutes. Oh yeah. 30, yeah. So next week maybe 7:45.